Today's episode of Python Papi, we're back inside our small contracts project. Let's have a look at what we're going to be going over today. And today we're going to be doing some light reading inside of our Moccasin module. We're going to be inside of a new section inside of that module, the conf test.py files. Let's pick right up with some light reading. So in this section, we'll go over the concept of conf test.py files. A conf test.py file is a special file in PyTest that is used to define fixtures and hooks that can be shared across multiple test files. The conf.test.py file is automatically discovered by PyTest when it runs tests. To create a conf.test.py file, we simply create a new file called conf.test.py in a test folder. Inside the conf.test.py file, we can define our fixtures that we want to share across multiple test files. Here's how we can create a conf.test.py file with the favorites contract fixture. So we import PyTest, of course, first and foremost. Then we will say from scripts.deploy, we're going to import deploy favorites. And then we will simply say at PyTest.fixture, this is our fixture, add our scope, set the scope to module. And then we will define our favorites contract by returning deploy favorites. Now that we have our conf.test.py file with the favorites contract fixture, we can use that fixture in any test file within the test folders. Here's how we can use the favorites contract fixture in a test file. Let me move down so I can show you what it actually looks like inside. So you can see we have our define test deploy favorites. We have our favorites contract fixture. We have our test update favorite number. We have our favorites contract fixture. And we have our test can add people. And we have our contracts, favorites contracts here fixture. But if you notice here inside of our file, this will be the file here. These are two separate files. This will our conf test file will be here, and this will be our test files here. If you can notice in our test files, we don't have our PyTest fixture. This is because we created a conf.test.py file and we put our fixture inside of the conf.test.py file. So now it sort of turns this favorites contract fixture into a global fixture, meaning that we can use it in any file inside of that test folder. So whatever file or whatever test that we have inside of that test folder, we can use our global favorites contract fixture that we actually initialize inside of our conf.test.py file, which makes it a lot easier to run our tests. We don't have to keep using this fixture here, this decorator. We can actually use the decorator inside of our conf.test.py file and use the global instance of the favorites contract fixture through any test we have inside of our test folder. That's basically how the conf.test.py file works. It makes it a lot more simpler to actually run our tests and configure things. It makes it a lot more easy to handle things as we move forward. That's basically that right there with the conf.test.py. We're going to be moving forward, so stay tuned for that. But of course, I will keep you posted every step of the way. For now, this is the Python Papi. You guys stay Gucci.